Good afternoon. Welcome back to Launchpad TV.
How's everybody doing today? How are you doing today?
No, come on.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Ann, and this is Launchpad TV.
All right.
I mean, we are on episode 9. You should be able to get that down like that.
It's tough. It's tough.
All right, we're going to welcome people in from the waiting room. We've got a great show on our books today. Peggy Dold from IBERIABANK in New Orleans is going to be joining us. And longtime viewer, forever supporter, Brian Zisk, also going to be joining us today on Launchpad TV. But before we get started, I have a confession to make. I, Ann Driscoll, am tired. Let's just say that for a second. I'm tired. Is anyone else tired out there? Raise a hand. I'm not going to lie, I'm tired. And it's really hard for me to admit that because I feel like I am just a goer. And being on this show gives me a little boost of energy. It's so great to see everybody out there. It's great to see the content. I feel like this is actually the thing that's kind of giving us the connection that we're really craving.
So why are you feeling so tired right now? Are you leaving it there? Or are you
I'm just tired.
You're gonna dig into it?
No, I am going to dig into it. And so when I know that I'm tired, it's because I've been doing a lot of work on what our small business response is going to be in what we like to call the post-COVID world. And I think we all realize that nothing is going to go back to the same. So the rules are off the table, right? And every time I sit down and I'm trying to build out the materials and I'm trying to build the deck and I'm trying to get pumped and energized around it, I find myself just feeling like I'm dragging a huge boulder along with me. And I think the reality is that as I've been looking at what's happening today, and we've been talking about resources and relief on here, which is really, really important, where the resources are being focused right now are on what I call health, food, and shelter issues.
Yep.
Right? And they should be. PPP is not meant to be a reinvigoration of the economy tool. It's literally been designed to be how do we keep people at work? How do people are able to buy food for their families, are able to maintain the shelter in their homes, right? The reality is the relief that's come in terms of mortgage relief and rent relief, that is so that people can stay in their homes, which is really critical right now.
Yep.
And the relief that's coming that I'm so excited about that, for example, Travis was talking about, which is, holy shit, our first responders, our healthcare workers are screwed. How do we get PPE?
PPP and PPE.
Basically, it's all about the P's. So I think the reality is that we are in the midst of a crisis and we are tired because as I think about the rebuilding phase, I don't know about you guys, but everybody's really just thinking about survival today. And I'm grateful there are some folks out there like Cal OZ who's doing some rebuilding planning and work, and maybe they've got resources or they have a war chest that allows them to not think about day-to-day survival. But there's a lot of people who are thinking about day-to-day survival, and I am just admitting it, and I'm tired. And I feel actually
there's people unemployment is going through the roof. I mean, literally day-to-day survival, health, family,
wealth, all of it.
Like part of what's been keeping you up at night are dreams about getting sick,
people dying, dying. I worry about you dying too, but I'm just saying it's exhausting. And I think actually just being able to admit that is something that's really important for us and for the collective psyche. And that's my PSA for the day, which is, I'm sure people are feeling a bit tired. Admit it. Tell people. I was reaching out to a friend of mine, past colleague, partner, who we want to brainstorm some ideas with her next week. And we have, I was out of the blue, sent her a note randomly, and this is why you go long in your relationships. And I was like, hey man, how's it going? Want to check in? And, she was like, let's let's talk about ways we can help each other. And I was like, that's cool. And I said to her, I was like, I just got to admit, I'm a little bit tired and I'm kind of freaked out. And she responded back, interestingly enough, she goes, you know what? Thank you just for telling me that. Because I got my own shit that I'm dealing with right now, and I'm freaking out in my own way. And I think it's really important for us to sort of be really honest and check in with yourself and be okay with freaking out, because we're all kind of freaking out and we're carrying a lot. And that's what I think what I'm feeling right now is this weight on my shoulders, this weight about health, this weight about shelter, this weight about food, this weight about society. And it's hard then to jump back into, all right, so where are we going to go next? And how can we rebuild? And how are we going to be in the revitalization mode? And right now, we just got to carry the weight that we have. And anyway.
And be in it, right? You got to be, you're in the mud and the blood and the flood.
Yeah.
You're just in it.
Right. So that was my.
At least we're in it together with, with the audience and everybody with us today. Thank you. Hopefully.
Thank you for letting me be in it with you. You know who is not tired though?
Who?
Harper. My God, our 18-month-old. Harper is taken to putting on the free Mardi Gras pajamas that I caught from a float when we were in New Orleans at Mardi Gras.
Those are the ones she likes. She doesn't like any of the fancy ones made out of bamboo or whatever.
Oh my God, right.
The $3
I'm like,
throw.
Organic, hand spun, sustainable, gorgeous cotton. Let me get this special thing that I hand wash. No, she's like, give me the thing that says reach for the stars in the ugliest font you can ever do. And I want to wear those every single day. And not only does she want to do that, but she also wants to put her bathing suit on as soon as she wakes up in the morning. On top of her pajamas, because why wouldn't you? And there you go. So Peggy, you're not even on the show yet and you're already dropping knowledge. I can't even believe it. All right, so let's agree that. So she's not thinking about food and shelter.
No. She's
thinking about when she can get in the water and Mardi Gras, basically, and Pete the cat. Those are the three things Harper cares about. And it's a simpler life, I can tell you that. And my favorite thing about every day is in the morning getting to watch a little bit of Pete the cat. And I highly recommend it for those of you who are watching other big cat shows. You know, just drop in, see a little Pete the cat on Amazon Prime. You won't regret it. Okay, but you and I are thinking a lot about shelter.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. We are having fun calls with our landlords. And I'm just sharing the story because I think it's interesting. And I'm sure many of you are having calls with your landlords. Many of you are having calls with us. And we keep getting the same message and reminder, rent is due. It's really consistent. They're really good at it, letting us know. But the thing is that we basically decided last month that we wanted to give relief to folks and our members who were hit the hardest. And many of them, most of them, haven't seen any relief, certainly not at the time when their rent was due. And so we just sort of said, that's it. Like, we'll help do that. We're in the process of collecting requests for that for May. We're trying to figure out how to thread that needle, which means, by the way, unfortunately, that means it's a little challenging for us to pay the rent that is, reminder, due. And that's okay. That's our job, not yours. But it really means that people haven't seen those relief packages and they're thinking about food and shelter, which is why obviously they're not prioritizing or thinking about their second home. They're thinking about their first home. And so we can't wait for them to come back to their second home in New Orleans, Memphis, Nashville, New Orleans, Newark.
Yeah.
I'm Stockton. I told you I'm tired. But what I just want to say is you tweeted the other day about this particular issue with rent being due and talking to landlords, and you talked about a personal guarantee. And I think it's a good lesson for everyone. And you got all fired up, and I love it when he gets fired up on Twitter, right? Like, it's Mr. Even keeled, always got to say, be nice, and then all of a sudden he gets fired up. And
I've been fired up a lot.
Tweets it out, and you're like, yeah, where's that? Urgh.
It's like,
so you want to tell us a little bit about the tweet that you made and why?
Well, I was just politely reminded by one of our landlords about a personal guarantee. And I don't know if anybody knows what a personal guarantee is on a lease. Hopefully you don't have them. But a personal guarantee means you obviously have signed the lease as a business. Usually, sometimes you sign a lease as a person, personally, if it's a landlord or a house that you're renting. But a personal guarantee means if you default on the lease, that you're still guaranteeing it. Your family is on the line, your livelihood, your house, they can kind of come after you. Now, we learned the lesson the hard way about why you never do personal guarantees years ago on a Launchpad location in Charleston, where we did have a personal lease. And we actually don't have any personal leases because as we got a little more sophisticated, we realized that you don't have to sign personal guarantees. And I in terms of the getting fired up part, personal guarantees are fucking bullshit, right? They're predatory. They're like, you're anybody with any sophistication doesn't sign personal guarantees. Your lawyers shouldn't let you sign personal guarantees. Maybe you have to on banks and notes and other things, but on a lease you should never sign a personal guarantee.
Yet they always are asking for it.
Of course they're going to
ask for it.
And
they make you feel like you're dumb if you say that you can't sign.
And the people who sign personal guarantees are the first-time entrepreneurs, or the young business owners, or the people trying to sign up, start a restaurant for the first time. So if you take one message away from Launchpad TV or my Twitter account today, it's please do not ever, ever, ever sign a personal guarantee. Let us do that for you, and we don't sign personal guarantees on Launchpad locations.
And that doesn't mean that we don't sign corporate guarantees and that we aren't planning on paying our rent. But that's the goal. The point is, go ahead.
The reason it's bullshit is, as an entrepreneur, you are already taking on so much risk. You're starting a company, you're trying to pay employees, you're trying to get a business off the ground. If that crashes and burns, if that fails, it's a huge failure. You're going to lose your income. You're going to lose your livelihood. You lose your job. You lose everything, right? Your business fails. And then on top of that, your landlord is coming after you.
And he's like, let me have your house.
Your house or your rent or whatever it is, years into the future. So anyway, it's predatory. Landlords should not do it. It's exactly why we, through co-working, are disrupting real estate. When we talk about why this model disrupts real estate, it's those kind of bullshit things that we want to extract, get out of the market so they don't take advantage of people that way. And like I said in the tweet, and anybody watching, this is an obvious wrap up to this, but just join a co-working space. You don't have personal guarantees on your memberships at Launchpad.
Yeah. And Andrew's making a really good point that yes, if you don't have a track record, oftentimes the landlords are doing. It's a great reason why you join a co-working space, and there's co-working spaces everywhere, and that's what you should do. And the reality is landlords, and by the way, the impact of COVID-19 is going to be massive on our economy. And I'm sorry, it will be massive on the commercial real estate industry. And that is why disruption has to happen. And that is why the rules need to be rewritten, and that rule is an archaic rule, and it is not reflective of the opportunities and the options that are available to us. But at the end of the day, yes, sometimes you may be forced to do that, and in situations where you might be doing that, thank you, Brian, where you're considering that, it's usually because you are maybe needing larger space, or you actually have a team and all of those things. I think you can still push back on that. And
it's a good debate, and there's a reason why they're asking for it. And creditworthiness of tenants is, we can go down a whole rabbit hole. But my point is that whether if you take on investment, you raise some money from angel investors, all that sort of stuff, you may lose their money, but you're the one on the hook for the personal guarantee. Your investors are not on the hook. It just is. It's a very, very difficult situation. And I had an entrepreneur who I know very well respond to my tweet the other day, and he said, "I wish I knew that, and I know the pain that he went through winding down his business." So just
Yeah.
Generally, I mean, take whatever you want to do, you know,
and our
live your
brand
life,
is,
but I would recommend against it.
our brand is founder friendly. And I think to a challenge point, not a fault, but a challenge point for us is, you know, how are we supporting entrepreneurs? We focus on momentum markets. We focus on underserved communities. We like invest ahead of all the success. We're literally like the poster child for like
Going long.
trying to go long and be helpful. And so, you know, it was nice to get an education on the fact that I should have, like my landlord, 5 months of cash for the moment that a pandemic hits all 5 of my locations at the exact same time. And my business interruption insurance is null and void because it's not designed and literally has a carve out for pandemic. So it's really helpful to have a billionaire landlord tell me how I should be having a lot of reserves in play for this particular scenario. And don't worry, I have a personal guarantee. He should have checked his lease first. Anyway, let's get back into the show. Enough about us.
Watching.
Do you think he's watching? Do you think that's why I'm not actually that's why we're...
I don't think he's on the email list, but anyway.
Whatever. Moving on. Let's jump into this next segment. Peggy, we're going to pull you up here. Peggy Dold is a Senior Vice President, Director of Music at IBERIABANK, Sports and Entertainment Banking. Past stints have taken her from renowned record labels like Columbia, Island, and Sony to MTV Latin America and the international division of Univision Music Group. She's here to talk to us about how IBERIABANK can help small business and Launchpad members, maybe with the PPP. I mean, good timing. I think they ran out recently, as well as speak about the overall programs that Iberia has for small businesses. We are delighted to have you. Finally get to see you in person. Do you remember the last time we had a rapid fire call on the phone talking about your new job? I'm excited to hear where you're at. Peggy, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you. I do remember that phone call. I was still pretty amazed that we got 2 founder entrepreneurs doing the scope of work that you're doing at the level at which you're doing it with a small child. That's pretty amazing.
And then
not a lot of money.
Throwing a pandemic.
Right, of course. So, yeah, I'd love to know who's listening.
So we've got a broad cross section of folks. Many of our attendees are coming in from our locations across the country, which are New Orleans, Nashville, Memphis, Stockton, California, and Newark, New Jersey. So you've got a good cross section. And then what we also do, Peggy, is after the show, package it up, and we get a lot of views across all of the different platforms because we repurpose it. So it's evergreen content. Think about them like small businesses. Many of them don't have a banker. Many of them would love to figure out ways to get relief and are trying to survive this pandemic and be ready to be strong coming out of it.
And I presume it goes across multiple business sectors?
It does. And just for those in the audience listening, 73% of our members are either small businesses or startups. 17% are service professionals and professional service providers, and the remainder are more like remote corporate workers. So you got a good chunk of the small business and startup communities represented here from these locations.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't have anything prepared because I thought that there might be questions. And I do want to present myself accurately. I am new to banking. I've been in banking just since August of 2019 after 39 years in the music industry. And in the music industry, I spent several decades working in marketing and international, and then kind of moved into the Hispanic market where I also worked in marketing and international for almost 20 years. Then went on my own and started consulting, doing business development and marketing for independent companies in the music space and some music tech companies, and then was basically recruited by IBERIABANK to be part of their team because the bank was they have a very good sports and entertainment team, and their focus was to have a knowledge-based team, not just a team of bankers who happen to love music or film or TV, but people who actually understand the businesses, which is how I ended up being a banker, which is pretty unlikely for anyone who knows me. But for me, it's quite wonderful because I've always worked with creatives, and I've always worked with creators and their teams, and it's just a very natural pivot because it really is doing the same thing. We might not be part of a team that's marketing a record or overseeing the business of talent, but we are, just as a different type of talent, and we're still a fundamental part of the team working with either the owners of the company or the artists themselves, or if there are business managers involved, we just like to be we just like to be another spoke in the wheel that can help bring some balance and at times some fiscal responsibility and a conscience, which is always needed or oftentimes needed. And that's really our whole agenda. I think I should tell your viewers a little bit about the bank, because it's not a national bank. It's not Wells Fargo or B of A. It is a Louisiana headquartered bank. It was founded in New Iberia, Louisiana, so we can just tick off the box that says, no, we are not part of Iberia Airlines, and we are not Spanish. We are a Louisiana-based institution. The bank is over 130 years old, and it has about $31 billion on deposit, which makes it not the smallest and not the largest. We are in the ending phases of what they call a merger of equals with another bank, which is a similarly sized bank. It's a little larger than we are. They have been in business for 150 years. It's a bank out of Memphis called First Horizon. They're the parent company for First Tennessee. So whereas IBERIABANK has a physical footprint in 12 states, they've had a very teeny footprint in Tennessee. And once this merger is completed, we'll have a very big presence in Tennessee as well. The combined deposits will be about $75 billion. And they're really just two southern financial institutions with deep histories, deep legacy, and deep legacies with creatives. IBERIABANK was the first sponsor of Jazz Fest, and it continues to be a title sponsor and has been every consecutive year. And First Horizon has a lot of history in Memphis. So we're quite excited about what the combination will bring in terms of what we can offer our clients. We think we'll be stronger, we'll be better, we'll be bigger. We feel very confident about what we offer our clients now. Iberia in the last 15 years has acquired 30 banks. So it's had a very strategic plan for growth. Mm-hmm. So we have this physical footprint in 12 states, Texas on the west, Texas, Arkansas, going up to Memphis, expanding down into Florida, the Carolinas, Alabama, the Southeast. And then we actually have a bank on Park Avenue, which nobody knows about because it's at the top floor of a skyscraper and it doesn't have a sign, but it's there. So our footprint covers a number of territories, and that's relevant for this conversation and other conversations, because if somebody from Stockton were to come to me and say, look, I'd love to work with you. By the way, I've lived in Stockton, and I actually went to UOP before I went to USC. So I have history with Stockton. So I'm not singling out Stockton except as with much loving memories. But were to come to me and say, look, we'd love to work with you. If it doesn't fall within our physical footprint, we can't do it. We can if you moved from one of our states out, but we can't do it out in, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So there are restrictions. We are still a bank. We are not venture. We are not private equity. We don't take equity positions in companies. We are a bank that is very tightly regulated. And in that respect, I see us as probably, in terms of the products that we have to offer, we're no different than any other bank out there. I think the differentiating factor and the value proposition that we bring, or we certainly endeavor to bring, is our service. IBERIABANK has spent its entire 130 plus years treating people, and even with all of these acquisitions, in a customized white glove concierge way. And the sports and entertainment division was founded obviously upon that principle. It's look, we have lots of competition in that space, no question. But if there's an issue and you're an artist, or let's say you manage an artist and they're starting to tour and they're launching and they need a bunch of money in per diem, you can't just go into a bank and take that chunk of money out without some explanations. With our team, we understand what the money's for. There's a very short window of explanation. I mean, very short time. You don't have to explain what you're doing to us. We know. And so, you know, in that spirit, we just want to serve people. We want to ride the wave with people. We understand that it would be very perhaps lovely to just bank Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman and do their wealth management. But the real fun of this type of position, and certainly with my career of 39 years in the music industry, is starting with somebody when they're at a beginning stage in their career or in their company and riding the wave with them, being part of that growth, being able to be there. I mean, we know there will be bugs on the windshield. There always are. And this is one badass, big ass crisis, no question. It won't be the only one we see.
That's right.
I think we all know that. So, and it's not the first one we've seen. So it's just, you know, being part of the team to help prepare people to be able to be there to help write it out when it happens. And also to be part of the success when the success comes. We believe in people, and we know that everybody has the ability to again, if they work together and they work smartly and they've got the right team, everybody's got a shot to be the greatest vision of themselves they could possibly be.
So Peggy, right now, we're basically realizing that all the rules are out the window, right? I mean, none of the banking rules, of course, but the whole idea is that, like, as an industry, whether it's music or small business or startups, rules are kind of being rewritten. You're probably seeing and thinking, because, you know, that's one of the pieces, is you're in the position of where is the industry going to go and how do we navigate that through our service offering and how we're going to be helpful to our partners and our customers. You know, Mayor Latoya Cantrell, she just made that guidance that, like, no music festivals for 2020, probably a fairly good suggestion at this time, but sort of what are you seeing from the front lines in sort of the music space and in New Orleans that you can share with us that's kind of like a little bit of the insider view on where you're seeing things go or the challenges that you see in the near term?
Gosh, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, I see a lot of hardship, but I also see a lot of innovation. Okay. And I see, you know, we have an opportunity to innovate and we have an opportunity to pivot. And it could be that this is, you know, I was thinking about this today. You know, technology came into our worlds and it's not been easy for everyone to adapt. Not everybody is Brian Zisk, okay? Let's just say it. Brian is genius, he's smart, he's fast, but, you know, it can take a while for some of us. It can take a little longer. But, you know, you've got your
setup for Brian, who's coming up after.
Yeah, you've got your, you know, you've got your people who are, you know, who are your early adapters, and then you've kind of got that little middle level, and you've got the people who are resisting and, you know, leaving skid marks, right? So I was thinking, you know, this is the type of thing that is forcing everybody to get on the same page. Yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of pain involved. I mean, I think about the music companies, and I was thinking, my gosh, you know, what the music companies went through 15 years ago, and they're just starting to come out of it, and then this happens, right? So, you know, it's just, what is it? I don't mean to get all woo-woo, but is it Deepak Chopra who said once, you know, you can be like an oak tree branch, and when it gets really windy, you break, or you can be like a willow, and when it gets really windy, you bend with the wind. And I think it's really we have this, you know, this opportunity to try to be the willow branch, and, you know, and it's not easy. We're going to leave skid marks, no question about it, and we're going to get hurt. But the innovation is there, the creativity is there. We're seeing it. We're seeing an uptick in the way people obviously are doing live streaming. We're seeing people, you know, adapt, you know, a lot more to Twitch. I mean, that's been coming. That's been coming in music for quite some time. It's been a thing for quite some time. TwitchCon was filled with musicians this year, but now it's even gotten bigger. And so you've got TikTok. I mean, what's going on there? And again, we've got an incredible opportunity for content creators. We've always had opportunity for content creators, but what's happening is I think that the business model or models are going to change so radically. And I don't have the crystal ball answer, but I know that when we've had, say, content like television content, like with the Netflixes of the world, it's all been skewed to very heavily scripted drama. And that's been a thing for many years, and everybody loves it. It's great. Now we've got, but then you have
scripted drama.
Yeah. And then you've got somebody like an HBO who spends $100 million on the closing episode of whatever Game of Thrones. I mean, that's a lot of money. You've got blockbuster films that were created for, again, a lot of money for the big screen. If we're now being forced to dial back to a smaller screen, and that could be a 75-inch screen in your living room, or it could be your phone. I would expect that the economics of everything from production to promotion and marketing will shift accordingly. I would expect that the artists who are or the people who are creating content with a really lean margin, and it could just be a cell phone and a tripod, are going to, I think they've got, look, we've always said that the internet has democratized things. I think it's going to democratize things even more this era, because of the required innovation, the innovation that will be required in order to survive, not just to thrive, but to survive.
So I love that point, and it's been a common theme in our segments and our episodes, and something that we've been talking about, which is about the innovators. And I think there will be in this, what we'll just call it, right, before COVID and after COVID, right? And this is going to be a long-term rebuild. It's going to throw the rules out the table. I really do believe that. And I think what has happened with technology is that we have been through the generation in technology that is tech-enabled. And what technology has done is enabled old industries to become more efficient, but it has not necessarily always transformed the industry completely. And it means that I say that because I mean the old guard still kind of controls the wealth in most industries. Music would be included there. Yeah. What we're seeing now is the rise of the scrappy one. And I was saying that the other day. We were coming up with some strategy. I had some harebrained idea that was going to just, save all Launchpad members. Of course, that's my #1 priority. But I was like, look, we can try this, because what do we have to lose? And what do we have to lose when we're scrappy and we're nimble and we're responding to it? And Travis talked about it the other day, which was, he's like, if you're worried that it's going to be perfect, nothing's perfect, right? We're both sitting on a Zoom call having a TV show. There's no producer, there's no hair, there's no makeup.
I could use hair and makeup, by the way. That is something that I think needs to be included in the future of these films.
Oh, I know. You know what else could help is a nice little lighting package.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So Ariel said I looked young the other day, so now I just walk around with this everywhere I go. But I love what you're saying, which is now is the time to be bold if you're small. And to try it. And, those folks who are trying to sort of navigate and save their businesses are spending a lot of time saving their businesses, and they don't necessarily have the energy for the reinvention. And if you're small, this is a great time to get reinvented. So now let me switch gears and ask you a question about Iberia's small business program. If there is one, are they, one of the things with PPP, and I mean, it might be even a moot point at this point, but
well, it'll probably be refreshed. I mean, I don't know if you have any more insight than we do, but obviously.
Yeah, I can talk to this a little bit.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Well, first I should tell you, I'm not in the SBA department. That's not my thing. So there are people who live and breathe SBA and have for years. and they would be much more equipped to speak, really granularly about any general SBA questions. The PPP I've gotten quite proficient in over the last 2 weeks because it's for our bank, and probably for all banks, it's been all hands on deck. You have banks that have typically maybe processed 1,000 loans a month, processing 1,000 loans a day with the same number of people. And so everybody has been involved, including me, which is pretty wild because it's not like I have any small business administration background. We were part of the initial banks because we have a very substantial SBA program. So we were definitely part of that initial funding. The funds have run out, as everybody knows. I have no doubt, based upon what I am hearing, and I've heard it from multiple sources and other banks as well, that there will be new funds. But this is really where the rubber meets the road. People who have maybe, I don't know, taken their time or dragged their feet or felt intimidated by the process or didn't know, going back to technology, couldn't figure out how to pull together their documents or upload them or whatever. This is the time. It's get into those queues now, because at the end of this, nobody knows what's going to happen. I mean, there could be no money at all at the end of this. We do not know. Nobody knows. I will tell you that the PPP, the piece of it on which we had the most clarity was the piece that was rolled out first, which was specific to W-2s. So if you are a business that have W-2 employees, then that program was created, and that piece of it was rolled out first to try to keep people paid, even if they're being paid to stay home, even if you've been, a shut down, industry or business, just keep people paid. And it comes with an 8-week it's a very good program. I mean, the program's amazing. And I've been told by people who are seasoned bankers that they've never seen anything like this. The program, it's a 2-year program. If one qualifies, the first 8 weeks of it that debt is completely forgiven. The rate for the next 18 months, or the rate of the entire loan, I should say, is 1% over 2 years. The first 6 months, the payments are completely deferred, and then the last 18 months, it's all amortized. And again, with this possibility to forgive those 8 weeks. In order to qualify for forgiveness, there will be certification, and there will be, there has to be compliance with the terms of the loan. And the biggest piece of that is 75% of that money must be spent on payroll. So you can spend the other 25% to take care of those landlords we've talked about and utilities. But that if 75% is not committed to payroll, then it's not in compliance. At which point, if one doesn't comply for the forgiveness, it just gets rolled in and they just have to pay it back. But again, it's a 1% loan, which doesn't happen very often. So that was the first wave, and that has actually been active about 2 weeks. I will tell you that if anybody on this call has had difficulty, and I don't know who hasn't, on either side of the equation, it has been a very complex rollout hang on, I've got an alarm telling me what time it is. It's been a very complex rollout, and the issues for everybody have been that the government has changed its standards and its guidance, literally not just day by day, but hour by hour. So original applications had to be scrapped and new applications had to be designed. Calculators, we're like on version 5. I mean, it's all been, and because of the guidance, it's been a constantly kind of dynamic, evolving thing coming from the government. The second wave is the 1099 wave. And I'm by no means an expert in that. We've lived with it a lot less time. Today is Thursday. We went live with the day before yesterday. The applications were being accepted on Friday, but we as a bank waited a few days because the guidance kept changing. And we didn't want to go back and experience what we experienced with the first round of PPP loans. So And I also understand that with the second round of money, that now more financial institutions are participating. I've seen online banks. I've seen, banks that might even be third parties. Some people are farming it out to third parties. So with the second round, there will be more financial institutions competing for that money. And the guidance on the 1099s, it's complicated. I have notes from a conference call that I took, but I would hate to give information that would be incorrect. I just think that, they originally told everybody who was applying to go to your own bank. And the reason they did that was because the American Banking Association advised the banks to only accept people who had especially commercial accounts with the bank, because then it would reduce the possibility of fraud. They're already in the system, they have a relationship. That has changed and gotten a little more relaxed. And of course, there are many people who, like with Wells Fargo, they couldn't even get through to their bank. I mean, they processed, I don't know, they got like 52,000 loan applications in a minute or something. It was ridiculous. They shut it all down. So you've got people who can't even reach their banks, who have no idea if they qualify, or who have applied and haven't heard anything for weeks on end. And then there are people who simply, I've got customers who have come to me because, well, my bank does this, but they're using a third party, and I have an account with you. I'd rather just do it with you because I know you. So we're very proud of the way in which we've managed it, because it has been in a very personal way. We do have an online scenario and app and all that stuff, which we would direct one to. But there, is a battalion of people who are educated and prepared and trained to help in the event that is needed. And that's something that somebody like a B of A probably can't provide. So I don't know, that's kind of my overview of where it is and where it's been and where it's going.
No, that's great, Peggy. And I think that's really helpful for folks. And certainly Ariel's put the IBERIABANK business link within there. I think at the end of the day, what we're really encouraging everyone is to both be educated on the PPP, to take the opportunity to benefit from those benefits that exist out there. And we're, surfacing the banks that are being proactive and supportive of it. We're going to be talking about another interesting program next week that might be out of the Iberia footprint, but we really appreciate you kind of coming on and giving us the quick intel.
Yeah, I will tell you this, Iberia, even though the money has run out, we are taking applications.
Great.
Because we know, we wouldn't be taking those applications. And and I was on that call before I was on this call. It's like, yes, please feel free to come to us, because we know that money's going to be there, and we know we'll be able to process it. What we now are telling people is that if they're within our footprint, and somebody can email me and we can talk and we can figure it out. The only thing that we require is a bank account. And by the way, you can open up a bank account with us with $100. So, if you've got, I don't know, $3 million parked at Chase that from your venture, investment or whatever, you don't have to move all $3 million to us in order to qualify for assistance with this. But we will require a bank account. And if those requirements are met, that's something that my team can put together really quickly and can do virtually, and then we can just send you the information that you need to get into the queue, because getting into the queue is the key right now. Getting into the queue and getting the documents into the queue, because once that money is released and they start assigning these ETRAN numbers, I think is what they're called, that's when the money is going to start getting dispersed. But we want to get things queued up so that our clients have the benefit of being at the head of the queue if possible.
Amazing. All right. Well, that's great.
Thank you so much for coming on, and that is really helpful to our audience and Launchpad members. They're looking for help right now, and you heard it here. If you haven't gotten your PPP in, Peggy's ready to help. Iberia is ready to help. So we're going to let you go, but thanks so much for coming on. And our mutual friend Brian Zisk is coming back.
Can I stay and listen to Brian? Just take
my
sure, yeah.
We're going to take you off screen.
We're going to take you off
take
screen.
Take my picture off, and I'll listen to Brian.
All right.
great.
Well, we're transitioning to Brian. I'm just going to quickly highlight for New Orleans entrepreneurs a new resource that's out there coming to us from the LePage Center for Entrepreneurship at Tulane University. They have started a new mentorship effort that we at Launchpad are proud supporters of. And they are getting the right individuals to help business owners navigate and access the resources available to them during this difficult time. Folks like Gino Inc. And Tulane are coming together to support entrepreneurs with not only the COVID-19 resource guide, but also amazing resources and mentors ready to step up and give them real-time support. Brian Zisk. All right, before you speak, Brian Zisk is an entrepreneur, event producer, and niche investor specializing in changing how people view industries. From cryptocurrency to music tech to real estate, Brian is known for presaging the future of music, future of money, and now the future of real estate. Brian is also someone who we consider a go-long friend who always shows up and you want in your corner. So welcome, Brian.
Well, good to be here. Good to be here. Yeah, you know me well enough to say, okay, don't start talking yet because then.
Not yet. Don't worry, Chris won't get a word in edgewise. How you doing, man?
Doing, I mean, as well as possible. I'm not in New Orleans at the moment, so that's not
Looks
as.
like it.
But I'm in Miami, and it's actually not so bad. And you know, we're pulling together our NOLA Music Tech event because we were going to throw this incredible event in the middle of Jazz Fest, where we bring all these industry folks from all over to New Orleans to, you know, get more people programming and playing and using New Orleans music, because that's the easiest way to get more money to musicians, is to have more people listen to their music. They don't actually have to do anything else.
Amazing. All right, so tell us about what to expect from this event and how to get involved. And
Sure.
I'm sure we're going to tune in, and our audience is going to tune in too.
Yeah, I hear you're even going to appear, Ann, but I haven't actually got confirmation.
I know. I had Ariel tweak my bio for me.
But, you know, because we have focus on Louisiana and New Orleans, we've got a bunch of the state folks who will be coming through, and like LED and GNO, and a bunch of local musicians and Grammy folks and performers, and then folks from all across the country and the world. We've done 19 of these in San Francisco, the SF Music Tech Summit. So we really have a way of doing things. And what we're trying to do is translate that to online. So it's not just, you know, wonderful talking heads that, you know, we're looking at for 7 hours a day. It's like, how do we get it so that the people are talking and meeting the right people? People still want to connect and they still want to do business. And we're all going a little bit stir crazy sitting around the house. So what we're trying to figure out is how to take it beyond just the Zoom interface, which, you know, we will be using to some extent, and how to replicate the different rooms and the different schmooze areas and the interactions like speed networking and elevator pitch. And this is all stuff that, you know, is really interesting because in a year, people will know how to do it. And
right.
Now this is like right at the start of the internet when you're like, it's like, yeah, you can learn this thing called HTML. And we're all like, well, we don't want to learn it, but we do want to publish, you know? So here we are, we're all becoming Zoom room jockeys or, you know, Maestro.io programmers to better develop how you present the streams, because streams are great, but you know, the second you go from we're watching you guys in a TV-like format to we have 600 people and we're trying to have dozens of conversations, that's where I think it's going to really get interesting in the future, is as people spawn rooms in various situations. So, you know, and we're probably short on time, but you could do something like the Grammys, or you guys could have a room, like a breakout room where you end up talking about whatever it is with.
I just want to go to the after party.
We've got that too. That's almost the easier part, but you can't get together with people in person. So, but we're lucky enough to, you know, we got the support of people like Peggy and IBERIABANK and a bunch of other great sponsors, and you know, a bunch of people are signing up. We have, I don't know why, like 24 CAA agents have signed up. I have no idea, like, Are they all looking for work? Are they all switching to digital? I don't know. But what we're seeing is such a change now, because everybody would go out and make money. They'd go on tour and they'd go, you know, do 100 dates lined up between now and fall. And that just doesn't happen. So right now there's so much, you know, advance going on around streaming and new ways of distribution. But you're also, I mean, we're competing against people like you who are grasping for attention. We're competing against Neil Young or Melissa Etheridge, who's playing for free every day. And how do you bring the crowd that's so concentrated together that it really, things bubble up about it? Like, you have a really neat sort of niche here, because it's around the co-work and it's around your community and it's around the evolution and the funding. And it really, so even if folks don't know you or don't know, you can really plug in and go, I'm an entrepreneur. I feel everyone's pain, you know, and how do we, as we evolve these channels, figure out how to reach your people and build your community, and then how you want to activate them both one on many, but much more powerful many on many. And the ones who can activate people many on many are the ones who are going to be the business leaders and the political leaders and rule the world. So someone's got to, and right now that we are all individually scared of each other, it's a really rough path forward. And I'd love to know how we're supposed to do it. But in the meantime, NOLA Music Tech, in 2 weeks, we're going to get all these people together and see what we can do. And I'm excited, because what happens is there's all these people we've known for decades, for 20 years. And as we all bring in our crew, it's like, I don't know all of Peggy's people, I don't know all of your people, but I don't know all of Travis's people, but bring in the crazy people who everyone doesn't know, and then how can we collaborate moving forwards?
Yeah. Well, Brian, give us a little background. I just want to sort of, introduce, we've known each other for a long time, since, South by Southwest and SF Music Tech, but
I mean, Ning, remember we met in the bottom of that restaurant when I was at Ning?
Yes, I do.
Which, by the way, I'm like, fuck, does Ning actually have relevancy again?
Yeah.
No, but her next project does. I forget what it is. I'm getting all messages from
Mighty Bell.
Yeah.
All right. So, but SF Music Tech, and you've done this in Miami as well. Yeah, I mean, it's an important conference, because it's music, but it's the industry of music, and it's actually technology. So it's this intersection point. Talk to us about, like, obviously before it's all going virtual, but even now there's an intent, there's a mission, there's a why behind it. And I think the timing is perfect, because so many people have really gotten focused lately, and Reed Wick is watching. I know Peggy was just here, on creating a music industry in New Orleans. I'm really investing in that. What's it going to take? Music technology companies. Right. There's always been this sense that we sort of lost it to Nashville, even though New Orleans has such a soul for music, and musicians love New Orleans. So what goals, what's the why behind bringing this to New Orleans now? And what do you think we can see coming out of it?
Sure. Well, I mean, we've been facilitating the convergence of the internet and music since it started. We had a company we sold to a public company at the time in Napster, and everyone thought we were thieves because it was the internet, but it was all legal. It was a good way to set the path for the future, to go, actually, no, there are legal ways to do this. But as it's grown, there are these, like, sort of business structures that, for whatever reason, though New Orleans is like the birthplace of American music, it's people don't figure out how to write their own songs as much, and how to protect their rights, and how to promote it. And it's very much, like party. So it's like, I go get my money for tonight, as opposed to sort of building the industry. But the industry can really, it can hurt, but it can really help drive the money through the pipes to the musicians here. So that was like there's so many people who come and they visit and they come and they fly in, or they're from here, you know, like Jen Bontusa from In Grooves, who grew up in New Orleans and, you know, is now in Nashville and is trying to open a New Orleans office. And it's like, how do we get the critical mass of people coming to say, you know, there is real business we can do here. And if we do the business, we can help the locals, we can help the musicians, and the musicians, you know, it's one thing if you grow up and you're like, you know, I'm going to go play really good local gigs. But then when you start doing things like getting booked on tours, or getting booked for soundtracks, or getting booked for you know, private gig, you know, corporate gigs, or, you know, it's like, it's hard for a lot of musicians because they're like, I want to use my creative side of my brain. I don't want to use the business side. And it's like, but if you don't at least look out for the business side, someone's going to take advantage of you. And so what we've also seen is that if you become a primary market and all the different options, whether they relocate here or they come through here, or you could at least meet them here or at South by, and then build the relationship, it's a way for the musicians in the music industry to have a pipeline into more of the money flow. And that's, you know, that's what everyone's like, how do we do it? And it's really a new way now. I mean, we used to be all about music and technology. Now it's really just about music. I mean, it's like all music is technology. We're not going to the record stores. No one is, you know, it's all digital. So how do we use it now that there's not the bottleneck that there used to be? Like there was only so much could be played on the radio stations and only so much could fit in the stores. Now you can get everything, but you're competing against everyone. So it's really interesting times. And what I love about it is I don't have the answers, but I know the interesting people, and they'll bring other interesting people, and we'll all collaborate and brainstorm and see what we can do.
Well, I think that's what's cool about kind of this new world, right? Like if you think about it, no offense, but like we got a lot of conferences, and I'm actually kind of grateful that we don't have to go to as many conferences this year. No offense. It's true. And one of the conferences we go to is like a 50,000 person conference. And what's weird about that is that it gets to such a scale that it's like not in person. And I remember back in the day when I got to go to music things because I was cool, but I'm not anymore. People would talk about like MeDem and how everything that ever happened in, what was it, like the Carlton Hotel, right, in the lobby. And you would just go play like the original LobbyCon. And, you know, I think it's interesting because now in this world, the whole idea, there is this broadcast, right, to this big audience. And that's really easy to do, but it's also like that you're competing for a lot of airtime, as you said. But in an event, in that convening around context is really valuable. And it's actually more about like convening those folks who are trying to get creative and trying to come up with the next plan and trying to learn from each other. And I think one of the things that we're seeing a common thread through this show is that it doesn't matter whether you're in music, and you've always done this, right? It doesn't matter if you're in music, or yesterday we had winemakers on. We can learn so much from leaders in every industry. And the thing about small business, and I always say this, if you care about small business, and I've cared about small business my whole career, and it's the bane of our existence, right? Because you gotta have a fucking tough stomach to try and actually engage small business, because small business is so vast and it's so diverse and it's so different. And it's just like this entire industry and vulnerable and busy, and they don't have any money. Literally, small business has no money, but they're like the backbone of America. And if you care about small business, like you have to have a stomach for it, because it's like the rules aren't the same. And so I think, you know, I think at the end of the day, we can all learn from each other. And that's what we're trying to do, is like tease out those lessons in those moments. And Scott was talking about meeting the moment, and we got to meet the moment. And like, this is actually perfect timing, which is, I'm glad you're doing it. We're doing it online, You're probably going to have less people than you would have normally had in the audience, but I think you're going to have a lot more engagement amongst the people who would have been your speakers, talking about how we reshape the future of this industry in this time. And by the way, people, it's interesting, like there's all these people who are like, what are we doing that's not COVID related? I'm like, it's not about what's happening right now for 3 weeks. And in fact, one of our mutual friends we were talking to, and she's like, I feel like I'm supposed to be helping all my clients meet their tribe. That's my thing. I'm like, don't fucking worry about it. People are meeting their tribe. They're also homeschooling their kids. They're figuring out, which I think you've always done, but whatever. You can run a show on tips and tricks there. I think everybody's doing that, right? And they're fine. Our engagement is not my problem. My problem is food, water, shelter, health, family, everything like that. That's the shit I'm carrying on my shoulders. Zoom calls aren't it. But this pandemic is not about today. It's going to actually be about tomorrow. And it is going to fundamentally change music. So now you are going to host the conversation amongst those innovators who are actually going to be transforming music in the new world future, because we are going to live in a post-COVID world and it is not going to be the same.
Yep.
And by the way, I said it the last time, industries have to change and disruption has been coming. It has not happened.
Yeah. No, it's interesting time right now. And luckily there are enough people who really are interested, and the people who convene the interesting people are the ones who are going to get stuff done. So we're thrilled to have you involved and thrilled you're doing your thing. And it's always good to see you guys.
We just got to do our thing, man.
So before we let you go, Brian, it's awesome to see you. Give us just a little bit of information about NOLA Music Tech, how people can get involved. We'll put this up in the blog post afterwards and post it in the chat room.
Sure.
Give us a shout out.
NOLAmusictech.com is a great way to find out more. I mean, it's, we've got all the speakers listed and we're making it up as quickly as we can. So it looks sort of like this, with a lot more rooms and ways to get everyone to interact. But you know what it's like when you're 2 weeks out from a show and you've got to make the platform look like it was like you've had it done for a year, you know? So we're having a good time. So just come to NOLA Music Tech. Tickets are $69 right now. And just thrilled to have you guys there.
I can't wait to see what the LobbyCon experience is going to be like.
Me too. Me too.
All right, Brian, great to have you today.
You want to do our 1 minute wrap up?
Yeah, we'll do our 1 minute wrap up. I'm going to let Brian go. But thanks so much. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you soon. All right. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. And we've covered a lot of ground, including the don't sign personal guarantees lesson of the day, tip of the day for me. Thanks very much to Peggy Dold from IBERIABANK for coming on, talking about the music technology industry, her intersection with banking now, offering the help that many entrepreneurs watching and in our circles need right now through the PPP program. The good news is, even though the program ran out of funds today, it's likely to be refreshed, and Iberia is still taking applications. So thank you, Peggy. And Brian Zisk coming on, talking about NOLA Music Tech, an upcoming conference that's gone virtual, like so many other things. And an opportunity to be involved in. Brian and so many others are really working to build the music technology industry, the music industry in New Orleans. So thanks so much to everyone, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
We are going to see you next Tuesday. I can't wait. I promise to get some sleep so that we can continue to figure out our future through this great program of popsicle sticks and tape and a little bit of wire. And I loved today because I loved learning about how every industry has innovators, and we're going to be the ones that figure out the new rules of the game.
All right. So long, everyone. Thanks so much.